Every thought is controlled by our mental forces. It's a piece that we use to build our future, good or bad. Thoughts make our faces unique and shape how they look. Your thoughts form your body's behavior, appearance, and shape. The rules of perfect health and perfect beauty are the same. They both rest on the state of mind, or how well our main thoughts and the thoughts of others are in line with one another. Today, we not only lose the huge power of our thoughts, but we also drain our batteries in the wrong way because we don't know any better and have bad habits that have built up over time. We keep storing hate, jealousy, ridicule, and other negative emotions, and then letting them out. This sends the real content of our thoughts through bad processes and into other people, where it may hurt them. But we are always hurting ourselves. The way that smelly gases can get into our homes is similar to how other people's thoughts can get into us. Say these words over and over. I don't want to be enslaved by anyone, and you will find a way to stop being a slave, being dependent, or beggar. Our dreams will either be filled with gold or bombs, depending on the material they are made of. Our mind will be able to work better over thousands of kilometers if we can fall deeper into reveries and think about and abstract things more deeply. This is how all the things we call occult forces, like telepathy, are made. Any kind of thought can become real right away if it is thought with enough force. This means that everyone has the ability to use these forces. We stylize a part of our lives every day and become a different character in our minds. We will have a body that looks like the mask of the main part we play most of the time. For someone who complains a lot out of habit, celebrating in bad moods and laments taints his blood and ruins the features and understanding of his face. Because in the unseen lab of his spirit, thought, an evil agent is being made. It will produce an unavoidable law that will attract to itself the same thoughts that are around it once it is put into action or thought. Having a mind that is angry and powerless means letting in the angry and powerless thoughts of everyone in the city. This means that you are charging your spirit, which is like a magnet, with harmful currents and connecting your mental battery to all of these currents. If you think about taking and killing, you connect spiritually with all the other people who do those things. We must not let other people shape us based on their thoughts or in the way that is most easy for them, because we all end up as we are accustomed to seeing ourselves. So, the good boy or the perfect wife is a dream. What is truly feminine will only be known when women start to make themselves. When this happens, the world will be twice as psychically rich as it is now. When men, who are only interested in their own idea of what it means to be a man, have pushed a notion of what it means to be a woman. People who are always careful, who think about or anticipate everything, always fall into the trap. This is because expecting problems creates them, which is a habit that seems hard to break. When you think about any kind of crime, you will attract criminal facts from the secret side of life. Your thoughts are like magnets that pull the same things to you. These unseen and secret forces make the conditions for crime possible, making it possible for it to happen. You will attract something of the same kind every morning if you read with great interest in your favorite newspaper about murders, thefts, scams, and deaths happening on land, sea, and air. If you do this for years while eating breakfast, for example, you become more sensitive to lower-level spiritual events that pass through you and affect you in a way that makes you more open to them, even physically. This means that you have a higher chance of being touched by something from this area of shocks. The mystic baby peoples of the East would rather say a prayer to the sun, the chant, or peanut padme un in the morning than read the dirty newspaper. Maybe this isn't as old-fashioned as the so-called white savage thinks. Everything is reality flowing through the invisible, and anyone who is immersed in those lowest, scariest, and meanest currents ends up being dragged by them. even if they are just interestedly listening with a bit of exciting morbidity and thinking they are far from the battlefield. However, the circuit has already been closed, letting the current that carries evil and crime pass through. If you like reading about steals, robberies and burglaries, you may attract more of the same to your house. It's possible for this person and the thief to become attracted to each other because they both swim in the same river of thoughts. But the most powerful force is the one we don't know about because we can't fight it. For example, if someone imagines something horrible for 10 seconds, something that would make another person despair in body and soul, that person has already set in motion a force that will partly fall on himself. If you think about something nice and loving for 10 seconds, something that would make someone happy without hurting or casting a shadow, you have already started a force that will partly fall on him as well. The longer our senses are drawn to something, whether it's good or bad, the stronger its invisible reality becomes. Eventually, it will be forced, by being fed new thoughts all the time, to grow up and become either a source of joy or pain in the visible world, which is just the densest level of the invisible world. At this time, it's not very trendy to freely and without hesitation direct one's spirit toward a goal and to create an atmosphere of desire and joy that lasts forever. What do the other people around us think? Well, about getting paid and the beer's quality. If women are thinking about going on a trip, they've always been thinking about the new fashion magazine, the dressmaker, the bridge game, or the trip they're planning to take this summer. They're always looking ahead, with a photo in mind, and there's an air of sexiness around it. They're never strong enough to face life, so they just pass the time with mornings and afternoons that could and should be slowly wringing its neck. Where our minds are at any given time can often be a powerful force that can make things happen for or against us. To give you an example, some people are born with a soul, but no drive, no goal, and no road. They can't take care of themselves or protect what they have received. They are examples from school of a way of thought that leads to mistakes. Others, though, are born poor, but are able to build up their happiness from the start. They focus all of their thoughts and willpower on a goal and succeed if making money is success in and of itself. Any business starts with a dream. People who go from being poor to owning 12 train companies are always mentally ahead of where they are, meaning that as soon as they hit one level, they are already wishing for the next. Someone who works as a rag picker for years has clearly never seen himself in a different role, or more accurately, he has never surpassed the rag picker's psychic boundary. He may envy people who are better off than him and wish they had many of the things they have, but he has never told his soul, "I want to break free from this trade, and I will succeed. I will rise to something purer and higher than rag picking." Envy, on the other hand, doesn't help people move up, and that person will always be picked up for trash. If you are happy to think that the nicer things in life are out of reach, if you are on the bottom rung of the ladder and complain about everyone above you, you will probably stay there. Any spiritual position in which we don't do anything for a while points us toward things in life that support that position. If someone wants to start a business or come up with a new idea, they have to make something out of unseen parts that are just as real as any iron or wooden machine. That business or plan will then attract more forces that will help it succeed, forces that will show up in the real world. But someone who lives in fear of bad luck and what might happen at any time is creating a world of thoughts that attracts a quiet force that, according to the law of attraction, brings around it things that are bad. There is a law that can help both the person who tries to save someone from drowning and the person who stabs that person. We make something from unseen parts every time we think. These parts hold forces that can help or hurt us based on the thoughts we have sent before. Never think that something is impossible, and never say that an idea is wrong from the start, no matter how crazy or unlikely it seems. This is true in this life and in all others. You should wait until your feelings have come together first, because they aren't always there when you need them. Only then might that fine dew of dawn appear, which only people who are waiting for something to happen can enjoy. But this biggest and purest wonder, even if everyone could see it, would only last a blink of an eye because it would go straight into people's brains. It's important to give a thought more time to act, the more crazy and fantastic it is. When we say impossible just because we think something is impossible, we start to dislike things in general, which is a bad habit. Consciousness acts like a jail with locked doors that don't let the infinite in. Inside and outside of this prison, there is only one small, lonely person left. Because of the power of the state of mind, the reason is always a state of mind that we've practiced for a long time. Without doubt, someone who has a strong desire to achieve draws as many spiritual resources from the unseen river as an embryo draws from its mother's blood. So long as everything goes according to plan, he will be able to learn everything he needs for each stage of his growth. The whole universe is like a nursery for the lucky one. It feeds his deeds. When we say auxiliary forces, we mostly mean the finding of new ways to do things and the growth of spiritual fertility. Language has known this for a long time, which is why we use form. Things do themselves. We all know how to use this great creative word perfectly, but we can't seem to put it into practice. But deep down, we know that when we need the right people to carry out our plans, they will always be around. Don't waste your time trying to find these extra forces and their helpers with your body's senses. That's up to your unconscious mind. All you have to do is put yourself in the right situation, like being with a pregnant woman. The baby should grow in a way that is as natural as possible and in line with its own natural rules. This will allow the new being to see the light in the end. In the same way that the mother has no choice but to have hope, the spirit acts the same way while a plan is being made. There is no stopping its thoughts. I am determined. Go ahead. It thinks with every movement and cell, not just the brain and heart. In the end, this will create a force that can turn any idea into reality with the same ease as a crane can lift its load. Even when the body is asleep, the forces that have always been there with the spirit keep working. To their beloved will give God while they sleep. When they wake up, they see all the open paths and how many new plans and methods fit together to reach the beloved goal. Exactly these new plans are what will get the body moving. It won't be able to stop then, and it will know ahead of time how everything works out. Now is the time to act quickly and with confidence. On the other hand, before reaching this point of readiness to act, one may be so worn out from waiting for the right time that they lack the energy to grasp the freeing thought when it finally comes along. For a business to be successful, new ideas, thoughts, mixtures and events must happen all the time. It's like stealing money from one's wallet and health from one's body to think about and talk about sadness, disasters and crimes all the time. Well-being can grow almost endlessly if you surround yourself with good things. If not in real life, then at least in your dreams of a world full of young animals running free in woods and on the water. Dogs, rabbits and birds make great friends. If you can't have them in real life, at least think about them. If someone feels down and weak and can't leave the city, they should throw themselves into storms and tides, or go to a circus and see what beautiful horses, agile acrobats and clowns can do in real life. Watch how the atmosphere of psychic diversity makes people forget about their problems. What we call the mood-driving force here is not the desire for material things, because wanting something always comes with impatience and suffering, and waiting takes away what is wanted. At the very least, it slows its arrival. You are going in the wrong direction when you say, right now and here I want it. I'm tired of this never-ending waiting, now or never. But because the thing you want hasn't come to you yet, you waste your strength on fights and arguments instead of focusing on the desire itself, where it needs to work. This makes the thing you want even less likely to exist. Do not want something too much. Don't let a wish hurt your heart. What if someone got mad and crashed their car because it was stuck in the mud? To get the car out of the mud, you should use force. If a person has been able to keep the cradle of their longing from being destroyed, they should be careful not to make the same mistake again. This time, it may seem reasonable to see themselves in the situation they want, as if they had already reached their goal, or even as an idealized version of themselves. Take the role of someone who wants to own a beautiful home to share with a loved one. He shouldn't picture his life in this house as if it were a movie. No, he can't look at it from the outside, like in a mirror. He has to be inside, in the wanted self. If you don't, you'll just watch yourself. If you had to put it into words, the real inner strength of the spirit would sound like this. All of these things add to my pure and joyful self. I need such a home and such a loved one around me, and I will get them as long as there is a will wiser than mine that has decided that all of this will be for my good. It has to come from the heart and be warm, happy, and determined, never paired with doubt, anger, or impatience. For this state of mind to last, it is neither necessary nor helpful to always think about what is wanted. Our normal state of mind, rather than constantly thinking about what we want, is the only thing that can attract success, beauty, and happiness. Being in this state of mind and telling yourself calmly, "I will travel, I will see the most beautiful tropical countries," will help you forget about your desire for a while. You can then do other things to pass the time and get ready for other desires in other areas, without delaying the force that will drive you to take that trip. When you want to learn about strange places again, all you have to do is add it back into the spirit of your unbreakable will to do it. When it comes to achieving our goals, our state of mind is the most important factor. It's more important than work, knowledge, sharpness, or application. Infinite time has built up the mental material that makes up each spirit. This material is made up of the events and memories of many bodies. This magical stuff works like a magnet. In the same way that touching an iron object can magnetize it, it can also attract and send thoughts away. It also gets stronger through use, like a magnet. You don't have to be skilled to attract spiritual forces to you and become spiritually creative that way. The kind of spiritual charge someone has depends on what currents they let in. People who give off courage, determination, hope, happiness, strength, justice, order, and accuracy will eventually attract more of these thought elements into their surroundings. These are thought elements that are already in their field of success. It creates a magnetic tornado that moves forces of the same sign faster and faster toward the center. This is because the elements are now in space and attract other elements that are like the people we will meet in the future, whose job it is to help or hurt us. The fluids in our bodies have already mixed with these things, but they were far away from the body at the time. What's the point of living? No one can decide what their own life is all about, because it's all set by a greater law that controls and guides us. Where are you going? Towards an ability to be happy that is ever bigger and never-ending. With systems that are smarter, more sensitive and sharper, we get closer to happiness every day and hour. It may not look like it, but the pain we feel is caused by our spirits growing. Each day, they push us harder against the things that are making us unhappy, and we immediately see and accept that pain as proof that we are on the wrong path and that we must get off of it, no matter what. If you really want to find the right road, something will always show up to help you. This is because one of the most subtle and deep rules says that no real prayer can go ignored. It is the goal of every wish and every sincere hope that they come true. People who seem to be being punished by mistakes might actually be the nicest and best people, but they are the ones who are mean to themselves. They don't know where fate wants to take them, like a horse that can't jump over a wall because it is shaking from being shackled. There is always a mistake where there is pain, for there is always something wrong. Pain points us in the direction of the islands of the blessed. There are some people in the small group of wise people who live in such harmony with the universe that the line of their fates no longer sees the pain of winding paths. However, these few experts consciously hold on to a small flaw or weak spot in their minds so that they can have an earthly guide that can detect even the tiniest deviations from the truth and whose needle responds to the body's smallest mistake. Each desire we think about or voice gets us closer to what we want in a way that depends on how strong the desire is and how many other people share it. These people point the spiritual functions in certain directions, which sets off all the quiet forces of will that will help make the wanted happen. People can use even the smallest and strongest mental forces to their benefit. This is the key to magic. When it comes to being, happiness and health go hand in hand. Every week, every month, and every year, we have to see a picture of ourselves that is free of all evil until this dream becomes a set idea, a second nature. That way it can keep working in our minds. Don't think that you will be sick or hurt tomorrow. Today you may be sick or in pain, but tomorrow you should expect to be healthy and strong. That is, you should make health, beauty and power your daily dream, because a dream shows the right frame of mind much better than hope. The bad thing about mindless tyranny: faith is what makes wonders possible, but both good and bad can grow from it. From the seed of evil can grow a tree where all the noisy birds of bad luck will nest. In our dark and gloomy dream, bad things happen. After 1 or 2 days of feeling a little pain in an organ, we start to think that the organ is sick because we are used to feeling that pain. Then we learn that the illness has a fancy name and sounds dangerous. All of this makes people believe in bad luck even more. Then the effect of other brains starts to show. When family and friends worry and scare us, it reminds us of our situation. All of this makes us weaker because it puts us in a circle of bad luck. No one shows us what they think of as strong and healthy. We get ideas about being sick from all over the place. Everything around us has spiritual forces that are moving in the wrong way. To say goodbye, a friend might say, "Get well," which sounds like they are worried about you and think the worst will happen. We now have proof of what we were afraid of. Family members who care about us only make things worse for us. People we only do business or work with are not very important, but we need to be careful about who we share our most private times with. Anyone who spends time with a person who isn't up to their standards, male or female, when they're letting go and passive, will lose a lot of spiritual strength in the things they do, because the inferior person will change their path of action, or at least try to change it. Because of this, a lot will rest on the person we are close to. For us, these people have traits that can mean life or death, bravery or weakness, safety or fear. Family ties cause a lot of unconscious oppression. Many times, older children put their parents in roles in their lives that those roles don't want to fill. This thought, never openly shared, could be stated as follows: Our mother is too old to wear such light colors. It would be ridiculous for our widowed mother to remarry. Or it is logical that our mother does not want to participate in our parties. Mom doesn't want to participate in our parties. She'd better stay home and take care of the kids. Or it's time for Dad to retire from the business. There is no more subtle or powerful mental force for good or evil when it comes to getting things done than that stream of homogenized thoughts that comes from many people at the same time and focuses on one person until it has the desired effect on them, whether they are aware of it or not. The force does something and something happens. This being gave them new bodies, which they call mother. If 3 or 4 people all have the same opinion about her, that opinion will be strong enough to put the mother exactly where the children will be most happy. This common way of thinking could be summed up like this. Mum is getting older, so it makes sense for her to slowly pull back from active life and stay at home, where she can enjoy herself with her other retired relatives and feel like a boss when she's sick or at family events. As a result of this shared sense of superiority, many mothers give up their individual rights and act the way their kids want them to without even realizing it. There are mothers who say, "I don't care what happens to me as long as my children grow up healthy, then I will have accomplished my mission." However, a mother must be very aware of what will happen to her, because if her growth in knowledge and culture is limited, the growth of her children will also be limited. A good mom will always try her best to make her kids love and respect her as much as they love and care for her. However, women who stand up for their rights with courage, strength and freedom, and who work hard to reach new goals, deserve our love and respect. When adult children hide in a corner of the kitchen and act like a nurse and nanny, they give their mums too much love and respect. They also teach their family how to be used as pack animals for all kinds of real or imagined disasters in the home. Because of these things, a lot of mothers are put down by their adult children or just ignored. When mothers put themselves down so much because they think they are doing their kids a favor, they often pay a very high price for their mistake. If you constantly let other people tell you what to do, if you give up your own wants and needs, and if you live to please other people, you will eventually lose the right to make your own choices. Having so many other people's thoughts around him makes him a part of them, like an instrument that does what the people around him say without speaking. This kind of person turns into a dinosaur, a powerless worker who slowly loses the physical and spiritual strength to do anything. A grandfather, an old man who doesn't do anything useful, sitting in front of the stove. Most of the time, this person is accepted more than liked. This is because older children have thoughts about their parents who give up too much for them. When fathers and mums are locked up, it is the power of ghosts that makes them weak and finally brings them down. A lot of the decline and weakness that people think comes with getting older is actually caused by the bad impact of a group of spirits who are always trying to beat and control each other, whether they are aware of it or not. It doesn't matter much. A man may be enthusiastic and happy about running a big business, but his male children will get in the way more and more. A quiet group of young people is working together against the old, making a force that is hard for a single person to stop. It is a strong, constant, and long-lasting pressure in a certain direction. When the father doesn't know about the pressure being put on him, or that this kind of secret force exists, it works even better. He only sees that he is getting tired and that his old energy is going away. He thinks that this is because he is getting old. When we argue with our own fate for 10 minutes or feel jealous of other people's happiness, we create a lot of forces that will work against our own luck. Like a boomerang, every thought of hate or envy comes back to us. Poor attitudes toward wealthy people are a waste of time that not only brings us bad luck, but also ruins the chance for happiness that could have come our way. Most sick people work hard and terribly for years to get to their sick bed on a spiritual level. People who wait for bad luck are begging for it, and they will definitely get it. Bad habits that have built up over time need to be stopped right away. Weakness caused by low self-esteem. Someone with low self-esteem is not weak. Others respect you because you respect yourself. No one will want to help you get ahead if you don't believe in yourself. You won't have any thoughts to tuck you in. When people really look at themselves, they often realize that there are some jobs they would never take. Nearly all women who work as dishwashers would never imagine that deep down they are bosses of the hotel chain where they do their most humble work. But sometimes someone in a similar dangerous situation can get much better because she was brave enough to think about it. That was the force that drove her to do it, that no one could see. There is no doubt that fate will lead us to where we want to be mentally if we keep going. If we don't get there directly, we will get closer, which is better than being in the dirt with no goals or plans. When someone thinks that something they offer isn't worth much, they release a force that makes other people think that it really is something disgusting. If you want to sell diamonds on the street, and your physical appearance and behavior make people doubt the quality of your diamonds, 99% of potential buyers will think you are trying to sell them polished glass because of your thoughts. The one buyer who knows the diamonds are real will try to trick you, which will support his doubts. Do not bend and never feel low class around anyone. If you do, you will fill your mind with a flood of oppressive dependence, and that floodgate will let that same stream flow before any unworthy event. You should respect and admire other people's ability, but you should always do this as a king to a king, with the pure and deep wish that the same talent come to life in you. Teach your kids that they are not worthless. If they get used to not having any self-esteem, other people will start to see them as less important. There is nothing worse for a person, both as a child and as an adult, than putting himself down, and many kids start out life weak from being constantly criticized. Teach your kids to dream, believe, and hope that they will succeed, because hope that something will work out will give them the right drive, the right tools, and the right way to get there. Because having to deal with unfairness is even worse than doing it yourself. There are still a lot of lies that people believe today. Error doesn't show itself. So we keep living by the mistakes we have in our psyche, and the pain they cause comes from these mistakes. We shouldn't feel down when we find flaws in ourselves. Instead, we should be happy about it, like a sailor who finds the waterway that could have sunk his ship. As soon as we realize we've done something wrong, we can admit it, if we can do it. And if we can get over our silly pride, which keeps us from running away, we will have taken a big step toward endless happiness. Thinking about our mistakes over and over again is bad for our mental health and our spirits. What truly feeds the spirit are the thoughts that are always new, our ever-changing and ever-growing readings of everything that happens to us and around us. Every day we need to learn how to see things differently and go over our plans, thoughts, and goals for the day that is ending. That's the state of mind that lets the spirit receive. The daily bread, which makes the body whole again. Our best fear that means something. Everyone is always afraid of something, whether it's pain, death, losing money or love, or anything else. Plus, we all have our own favorite fear that we feed to its bursting. People are afraid of even the smallest things. If they don't have anything else to worry about, they're afraid they'll miss the next bus or train. The more sensitive a person is, the more they suffer from the currents around them until they learn to quietly ask for strength and build a wall of positive thoughts around themselves. Then the worlds of others can bounce off of that wall. As a person, you have a favorite fear, which could be a disease you've never had but always hoped to, or something else that losing would make you feel a certain way. Any small thing or casual word can bring up your favorite fear right away. That after so many years of training, she is now facing the terrible storm. This current is very powerful, just in the pitch of our nature that sounds like our worst flaws. Next, the body suffers. There are many different signs, such as tiredness, loss of hunger, tired limbs, trouble focusing on basic work tasks, and so on. The capacity to receive thoughts can easily turn into a source of weakness or strength. Sensitive and highly developed spirits tend to have a fragile body because they unconsciously take in many harmful waves without being aware of them. One of the main causes of these problems is having relationships with people who aren't right for you. the better female body, is even more vulnerable to the mental rays and shadows that surround it. When a man is focused on his work, he can sometimes tap into a positive energy that helps him fight off fear. On the other hand, a woman often suffers 1,000 times more inside the home than her husbands realize. Their husbands never stop wondering how their wives deal with these constant illnesses, fixed ideas, and nerves. If you're angry, sad, dependent, nervous, or confused, your force of pull toward the good goes down. When these emotions happen, the force moves in the opposite way, toward the bad. Wanting someone else's things, for example, or thinking about how to get an inheritance, or feeling worried or even angry at people who might be in a better position to get an inheritance, or looking greedily at other people's things, like trying to make money by flattering the rich, can all create mental states that stop you from creating that great pulling force and send you a flood of small, bad, and narrow thoughts. Another big mistake is letting harmful biases against other people pull you along, even if it's just by going along with what most people are saying. You lose power when you talk to people who are not as smart as you are. Even if your superiority wins you some small victories, you lose power when you insult other people's character or problems, no matter how funny or clever you are. This is because you create and release mental forces that stop you from taking a much stronger stance towards humanity and achieving emancipation that frees you and gives you direct access to the best in others, moving past everything else. Put aside as many people's thoughts as you can. Talk as little as possible about it and with it. Hold the line with a shield of kindness and fight every shadow of hatred, anger, and contempt that could act as a dark middleman between humanity and the better man, whose presence it can already feel from afar. This finer man is lost if he throws up a wall of hate. Only an active wall of kindness can protect his soul. If you can't avoid the meeting, be positive from the start. In other words, send currents flying instead of letting them sink in. Deny yourself access to everything that comes from this environment. If you take on its silly concerns, your pulling power will be flipped because it will absorb their effects, and you will mix your certainty with its doubt and your strength with its hesitancy. People who still know when they're lying are still pretty real and new. For them, lying is wrapped up in knowledge, like trichinae are wrapped up in flesh. But for most people, lying has infected their bodies so much that they can't tell the difference. A lie is not just an untrue word spoken on purpose, it's also trickery, including self-deception. A lie that we tell ourselves in good faith stops the productive parts of truth, just like any other lie. A lot of lies that are barely holding on can be saved by the new blood of a truth. This is similar to how types of rabbits that are about to go extinct because of too much inbreeding are mixed with the pure breed to keep them alive. Half-truths, on the other hand, are the worst. For example, we welcome someone into our home when we really want them to go to hell. We smile when we don't want to. Or we act like we care about someone's well-being just because they have money so we can get something in return. We join a religion or group for snobbery, mercantilism, or prestige. Or we say things from the throne or the pulpit that we only half believe, or we say half yes when we really mean resounding no. Everything, these small bits from the jar of daily lies that don't deserve more attention, creates a bad energy that even affects the body. It's like drinking alcohol. It's not the occasional overdose that hurts the body, but the small, steady doses that are taken every day without the drunk person realizing it. As soon as the body is full, it can't get rid of the poison anymore. It stays sick and eventually dies. As we all know, lies don't last. The material they're made of has to break down so that the spirit can find the right tool to reach its goal, which means that the incarnation failed. We think that what is bad and corrupt is just the infinite consciousness giving up on a position that is no longer possible. Second, lying puts us in touch with other lies, And because we feel like we have something in common with them, we are more likely to believe them than an honest person. A smart businessman in one area is often tricked by a smart businessman in another area because the smart businessman doesn't like honest people. Someone doesn't have to say a word to feel hostile. It's not even close to the lies we tell the universe every day through our words, breath, appearance, and life. The lies we believe without even realizing it give them complete faith in us and those around us. It is a cancer of the mind. Grey hair, lines, and any other sign that the body's cells have broken down are all manifestations of these kinds of mistakes. They show that wrong ideas have temporarily taken root in the mind. Today, someone has to ask the doctor what he should eat, even though the doctor doesn't know much about the subject, and neither does the patient. This is a clash of instincts that only happens in some weak predatory ants that can't find food on their own and have to let slave ants feed them. The doctor only knows a little about illness and nothing about health, which is understandable since health is not easy to come by. The doctor never meets normal, healthy people in his life. This is why the scary numbers about how much protein we need every day came from the brilliant Living, who tested them on a bunch of German students with big beer bellies and engines that needed 3 times as much fuel because of this dose of protein based on bad samples. People in Europe, especially children, were given protein poisons for more than 30 years, even though they were healthy. This spread metabolic diseases like acute appendicitis and gout. If you know you have a disease, you're already halfway better. It is important to know that when a bad mood hits, an outside negative current is flowing through us. We are in touch with many other dark and gloomy spirits who send each other their disgusting moods, making them even worse. We need to beg, pray, or ask for the strength to break free from these negative thoughts. We need to get rid of as soon as possible from our minds everything that is bad and incomplete, including the bad qualities of other people and everything that is ugly and unpleasant around us. If we don't, we'll only be left with the images of these thoughts, which will eventually come true in the exact way they predicted. If you picture someone always at the exact moment when they make a common mistake, you will probably make the same mistake. In the end, everything has to be put out into the world, just like language says. Everyone should make it a habit to turn all of their thoughts into words, because that makes them more real and easier to get rid of physically. The word is the way that the soul's bad things are taken away. The person who turns night into day misses the subconscious's most important meetings. Nature as a whole goes through times of action, followed by periods of complete calm. This is because peace builds up forces. Plants' movement slows down in the winter, and animals only eat and sleep. The earth itself rests, waiting for new seeds to grow. If people could sometimes give up everything and be completely passive, the person who could receive more of the sun's secret power would shine in a spiritual and physical rebirth. Senses and forces would rise in that person that many people still deny exist. The people of the East have some control over these new senses because they live quiet, inward lives. However, they do not have the power and strength of a victor. India has to follow English rules. They end up taking Western society, though, so it's not all bad. We are already bowed down to India and learning our first lesson, the alphabet of the laws and forces that our wise men don't know about. What are these forces? Where did they come from, and how did they change over time? For thousands of years, the power of the quiet spirits has been working together to reach a goal. We feed the myth, though, that we can't do anything without being rushed, nervous, or tired. There is a law in nature that says all living things, from the most basic to the most complex, need to rest in order to regenerate. Everyone has times in their lives when all of their muscles and systems feel tired. This is a sign that they are going through a process of change. we are put in dry dock by nature. People would be healed in body and soul after a few weeks or months if they followed these rules. All nature asks of us is that we be quiet while it heals people. When we say that something is in the middle of its life, we mean that it has reached or even passed its peak of energy and strength. It will then naturally wither and die like leaves. As a matter of spiritual law, this unwavering faith in getting older will make us old. There is only one reason for this change at the peak of life. Our body wants to heal itself and start over. Because our highly spiritual mind is trying to make that change, this activity needs complete peace. At this point, we shouldn't push ourselves too hard like we did when we were kids. But most of the time, we don't let nature rest, and we push our tired bodies to do things they aren't ready for. Nature tries to give birth to us again to make us stronger during this time, but we don't let it and destroy ourselves. People usually can't give themselves the peace of mind they need because they have to work year after year to make sure they can stay alive. This doesn't change what will happen. When Christ, Moses, all the seers and wizards were at peace, they built up mental forces that, when focused on a sick person, brought them back to life. In the story of Martha and Mary, Mary got the better part because she didn't have to do the housework, and instead quietly built up strength that, when used correctly, helped her do more in a few seconds than Martha could do in her whole day. Martha worked so hard that she died, but Mary healed herself. With the state of mind, the society of peace grows. Being present of mind means being able to use all of your knowledge, actionability, firmness, and tact at any given time. All of these qualities must be present at the same time for it to be valuable. When spirits are quiet, they are focused on one thing at a time instead of trying to find 1,000 other things at the same time. Those who are able to keep their strength and rest their spirit will have nerves of steel and a fluid that can easily tame the craziest horse. We can make our body 10 times more immune to material forces than it is now. Courage is like an impenetrable magnetic cloud that opens up a world of possibilities. There is always a little fear where there is a little hurry. This person runs for the train because he is afraid to stay, which makes the chance of being dumped even higher. People who rush to get to a meeting or appointment do so because they are afraid of what will happen if they are late. It's crazy how much money we waste every day on fears. Little psychoses can flood a person's mind so much that they have to miss something at any time, anywhere, even if there is no risk of doing so. This can happen through unconscious training. For instance, yelling at a streetcar as if it were a precious object when, 2 or 3 minutes later, another one comes along. But out of habit, the fear of having to wait 3 minutes grows into a mountain, like the pillow in a fever dream, a frightening possibility. This person will be in a terrible mood at meals, on walks, on holidays, and in general during everything he does, making it harder and harder for him to keep his mind clear. All of this behavior and mood is caused by fear. Fear is just not being able to control your thoughts when they come up. Our weak selves spit it all out like a mud volcano, adding a grey crust to our daily lives and making them dirty. This training that we don't even realize we're doing keeps our spirits in such a constant state of stress that they respond badly to small things and find losses where there are none. Those who feed any kind of fear, on the other hand, create a dead end that they can only move through when their fate is on the line. Fear. Don't let your drive to make money get the best of you. Getting rich at the expense of your health is like cutting off your feet to buy boots. We can do everything we set out to do without rushing, getting tired, or stealing. If someone is bothering you, it means that something is wrong with your business. The most strength is created when the mind and the body work together in harmony and fun. If this force is properly trained for 2 hours, they can rush for more than 10 hours. parents should not have to deal with any requests from their adult children during these times of peace. Wildlife in the bush, like birds, feels the same way. Human mums are the only ones who are always exposed to their children's needs, and they are always tired and squished by the time they die. What they should do, though, is be free and go back to how they were before they had children. Being a mother is an essential and very important part of life that helps us develop certain skills and understandings. We shouldn't spend our whole lives in one event. Please help me understand that a good friendship between two people is the most strong way to achieve happiness, health, and success. When we say relationship, we're talking about something much deeper than being close physically. The passion with which we treat someone psychically determines how close we feel to them. The distance of his body has no effect. If social connections are nothing more than putting up with the same words, actions, and thoughts year after year, they are dead people who need to be left alone to bury their own dead. Real and living life is a state with many sides, a portal for spiritual flows where beings of the same level can share their powers and thoughts. These are the causes that lead to the being that never ends. The most important thing in fate is sympathy. Fears and bad luck run along with the craze for everything cheap, but it never reaches the stream of daring spirits and winning forces. People who live in these currents never meet. If you want to get close to the winners in life, you have to change the way you think about faith. Only then will you be able to follow your path. Whatever bad things happen to people who get together to curse and envy others will happen to them 10 times stronger because they will attract the same negative thoughts that they have. The thoughts that come true most often are also the ones that manifest most strongly in the body. We take on other people's flaws and mistakes because our minds are focused on them. When we are angry and proud of other people's flaws, there is a mix of smoke and happiness that is similar to champagne. But this kind of fun costs a lot in the end. Being empathetic is strong, actively listening is healing, and the kindness of a single person, free of any traces of jealousy or ridicule, is an unstoppable current whose value can't be measured in money. When someone wishes someone bad luck, that person silently feels this desire and turns it into a strong, invisible wall that blocks everything without saying a word or even looking. Only a steady flow of kindness from that person can stop this effect without any consequences. Make friends with people who are dangerous. No matter how fair or rational the reason may seem, every tense meeting, family fight, or public appearance between people fills the unseen with harmful energy. And if something small bothers you without you realizing it, you will put yourself in a place where this destructive substance works, where any small bit of bad mood will wake up the whole henhouse, making it harder for you to get out than it was for you to get in. Stopping to think about it is the only thing that can help. In other words, you should instantly change your spiritual path and only take a short, happy look over your shoulder at the pile of other people's anger that was about to attack you, but has instead stayed out in the rain because of your small mistake. Just like there are poisonous metal fumes or dangerous arsenic, there are also poisonous spiritual currents. If you stay passive for even an hour in a room full of jealous, angry, savage, or enslaved people, you will absorb their poisoned thoughts, which are full of disease and destructive force. This is much more dangerous than a toxic chemical agent because its effects are more subtle and mysterious, showing up days later and being wrongly blamed on other things. There has likely never been so much hate as there is now. Hatred doesn't just happen between groups and farms, it also happens across and across, diagonally. People hate each other out of patriotism, from one political party to the next, and in between, the many private hatreds move around the body of humanity like small venous veins. Being especially inactive during meals is important from the heart to the mind. Anyone who eats, that is, anything that keeps their body alive should only do so when they are calm, balanced, and happy. By eating and whining, fighting, or running a business, you're being busy when you should be completely down. It makes no difference whether these comments or conversations take place out loud or only in one's thoughts. It's also bad when there's someone at the table who makes you feel bad, because you have to protect yourself inside while putting up with it on the outside, which takes a lot of energy but is good in and of itself. But you should only sit down with people who are completely sympathetic. The whole room is charged with this very spiritual air when everyone in it has come together to share the same thought. If this thought is about strength and help, something will be stronger in the space than anything else. This something will be like a stream that gives strength and help to the next person who comes in. It doesn't matter how many people come to this refuge or retreat with the same spirit. Each will leave their own grain of power and help. Over time, this place will become a powerful spiritual storehouse, as long as it's not used for anything else, and other low, selfish or worldly thoughts are blocked out. People who have come here with faith and a sick body will be healed by the force that has built up in this room. It will feel like unseen rays are helping those who are weak-willed and sad in space. Not for more than a few minutes, though, because being there could make someone tired or bring up bad thoughts. We all have a deep need for someone to be ourselves around. For each of us, we need at least one person with whom we can be ourselves and show how we're feeling. This person should always let us take off our mask. We need times when we don't have to think carefully about what we say in order to always say something smart and right. In other words, we need times when we don't have to keep our mental bow tight when it should be open. People need to be able to say and do silly things without worrying about being laughed at or given strange looks every once in a while. How to forget everything in every life. There are thousands of things, events and scenes in even the happiest one that it would be better to forget, even happy memories, because happiness gets old. Every year, the number of friends should be able to rise, and each day should be more exciting than the last. When you forget, you make room for new thoughts and, by extension, a new life. If you lock yourself in the present or the past and don't let anything else in, you will get old and grey. If you forget something, it doesn't mean you'll never remember it again. Because we are made up of all the things we've experienced, every scene, smell, word, and time is a part of who we are, even if it's in a vague, subliminal, and invisible way. It's always ready to come back to you at the door, thanks to a mysterious set of associative laws. It is best not to let certain groups of selfish and crazy memories through that door, though. An accurate memory is one that we have lost. If you want to move successfully along a straight line toward perfection, don't forget to balance the load your truck is carrying first. There are some people who like to fight their enemies in the spirit of old battles, and there's no doubt that these old spiritual fights in the blackbird field always end well. In other words, with the supposed enemy being completely beaten. In this story, there are an endless number of happy endings, and the dog is shown to be completely beaten, with his tail curled up and his whole body squatting in front of our powerful summary of all his evil. Some people think this is just a harmless and inexpensive way to punish people who were going astray, but they are very wrong. The reason being is that this game is one of the best things that people can buy. It takes lives. Anyone who does it joins a cloud of dead body poison and hypnotizes themselves in a made-up life that has already died. They sacrifice themselves for a made-up victory in the past and a real victory in the future. People who take payback are acting in the name of the past, which means they are using energy that isn't where it should be. It is impossible for someone whose body is full of old, dull thoughts to stay healthy and beautiful. Young people and new ideas will be sucked in by the soul's sticky cells. Blood, Bone, marrow and flesh have hardened into a shell, like a dead spirit. We feel weak and sad because of the weight of this crust, which keeps getting heavier. The only person who can rejuvenate his life is the one who can shed his old skin and move toward the new with every new thought. Those thoughts will also come true in the new body that goes with them. If you can die every day, any thoughts you had about the past are now in the world of the dead. When spirits are healthy at the end of the day, they lose a part of themselves forever. They have just lived their lives to the best. Using thoughts from the past over and over again is bad. The mental material needs to be thrown out in the same way that the skin gets rid of many cells every day. The skin would not be able to breathe, circulate blood, get food, or do anything else healthy. If a person can keep renewing their thoughts throughout the day, they can fully experience other places. They can attract happiness even while they are in jail, while those who are slaves of their old ideas rot away living in a palace. For them, happiness basically does not depend on the place and situations in which they find themselves. That way, you can be almost completely free of the body, and freedom is power. We will always be slaves as long as we rely on someone else, something we eat, a drug, or a boost. Being able to constantly think new thoughts is the only way to escape the chains of worldly and spiritual sadness. But in order for a project, study, or skill to be as successful as possible, even the most exciting, happy, and fruitful thoughts need to be briefly erased from our minds. Every day, at a certain time, we need to forget everything about the project, science, or art that is keeping us busy. If we don't, we'll get lost on the way and focus on the wrong thing, which should never happen. There may be a group of quiet, hidden helpers who can see further and are one step and one action ahead of us on the path to greater and longer-lasting success. They are ahead of us because we can't see and have maniacally gone down that strange, full of shocks path. We may feel like we're not going forward sometimes, but the truth is that things are just waiting for us to learn enough to see what they are. If you start something with a big, important goal, and after doing everything you can, keep running into impossible problems and failures, you should stop doing everything that isn't absolutely necessary right away. It would be best to firmly tell your spirit to stop worrying about it, and instead depend on the strange and secret force that makes everything real. Let him sleep and eat by himself, and have fun if he knows he has done everything he could. Turn off the lights and stop doing anything. Spirit and state of mind shape the belly and limbs. They also shape our movements, habits, and gait. They make us unpleasant or agreeable, beautiful or repulsive to others, and most importantly, to ourselves. Even the tiniest tremble in a muscle can be caused by a certain state of mind or thought. A determined spirit always walks with determined steps, while an uneasy spirit shuffles and stumbles. Determination stretches every muscle and fills it with a wonderful, energizing fluid. This is especially true when our determination is aimed at a goal that will benefit both ourselves and others. Selfishness that cares about the well-being of others is smart selfishness, because in the spirit we are all one, and there are other energizing and vivifying currents that support what is good for many. These energizing and life-giving currents come from somewhere unseen, and they carry our little ego boat toward its own awareness. We are all part of the same big body. From one being to the next, an endless number of unseen nerves run through space. Every evil thought is a pulse that moves through many beings. In order to help the productive processes of connecting thoughts between us and each other, though, they need to be kept in a way that keeps them fresh and biologically useful. And the only way to do this is to master the art of forgetting, which is just the skill of properly releasing chemicals that have been eaten or broken down. It's just as important to learn how to forget things as it is to remember them. As we get older, we tend to see things the same way they were 50 years ago. The same events and people always make us think of the same thoughts, so the same story is told hundreds of times. This kind of brain can't come up with new ideas because it's stuck in the past. It leads to decay and death. The spirit slowly loses control over the body. Memory and senses start to fail, arms start to shake, and skin starts to dry out. These are all signs that the mind, which is missing daily bread or new thoughts, is losing control over the body. It is necessary to keep the process of getting rid of old thoughts going all the time if we want to truly live, get stronger spiritually and physically with age, and go through each stage of our lives with more and more charm. This is the only way to beat our last big enemy, death. Being bored is a sickness. Not knowing what to do with our time, we sit down and try to control our thoughts over and over again until everything seems empty and destroyed from all the poison. If you try to kill time, you're actually trying to kill life. If you succeed, you briefly lose touch with the great spring and the endless consciousness. This is the worst sickness ever. People who are ready to be responsible will do well, while people who don't want to be responsible will be used as cheap pawns. People will stop making fun of you if you have the guts to run a big company and handle a lot of money, even if it's just in your mind. If you dare in quiet, in a small room of your spirit, the thought of being at the bottom of the ladder is too cheap. Develop the skill of waiting. The best and most productive way to wait for success is to do nothing, to turn the power of your thoughts around, to have bad luck, to see problems coming, and to worry too much about possible problems is the fastest way to ruin and poverty. Being responsible doesn't always mean being worried, angry, restless, or irritable. The culture of the spirit forbids us from thinking about duty until it is no longer necessary or beneficial to do so. We should talk about our big, important plans often, but only with people who share our hobbies and goals in mind. It's best to have these conversations at the same time and place every time. If you have them anywhere else, like in a restaurant, on the street, or on the train, they lose their power and reveal secrets even when no one is listening. As the saying goes, walls have ears in crowded places. Any room that doesn't feel calm has an unseen person working away, stealing and being smart, ready to take secrets and sell them to someone from another brain. If you set aside a room just for these private conversations, which should always be nice and pleasant, and you use that room for these talks for a long time, it will create an atmosphere of thought that will help your plans. Over time, this room's positive vibe will grow, making it the place where ideas come to you faster and easier than anywhere else. It will become a spiritually open space where you can be inspired. But if someone fights out of anger in such a place, or if someone else there is upset inside, a force that is bad for everything in life is created and moves in all directions. If you know how to keep a secret, it will attract more people. Since walls can hear, your secrets will get out for a long time and start stories, even when no one is around. People who want to keep a secret should forget about it, let it fade into their minds, and only remember it when they have to. Do not mess with it, not even in your thoughts, because every time you think about doing it, you temporarily put it somewhere outside of you that anyone can access. From there, it could enter a foreign brain as a presentiment or a volatile suspicion, where it grows until it becomes an absolute certainty because of your repeated thinking about it. As an example, some people will say over and over that two people have had sexual contact long before these events. Every big success has been kept a secret because if it were made public, it would have caused envy, which, once it sees the way it's going, uses its power to stop it. A lot of people have had bad luck because they were honest at the wrong time or place. If you're not sure what to do in a certain scenario, company or business, just wait. Don't waste time talking about it. It will only make your resolve stronger. This way, you'll only be able to gather and store forces that come from everywhere. These forces can appear as events, ideas, coincidences, or chances. While you're waiting, don't stop. In fact, keep going. Your goals will guide your thoughts to the event or chance you need. Part 2. Some proverbs. You will get it up to the point where you gave it. Don't teach your child to hate himself. If he gets used to feeling that way, other people will start to hate him too, first as a kid and then as an adult. Teach him to dream and have faith that he will succeed. The conditions, means, and ways to achieve this success are set by the long-term hope of it. Professionally, it doesn't matter who we work with or do business with, but we should be careful about spending free time with some people. The golden middle road is usually through the sand. Family members who care about us often try to hurt us. Don't expect to be sick or in pain tomorrow. No matter how sick or in pain you were today, expect to be strong tomorrow. Keep an open mind and learn to fly every day with your plans, ideas, and goals from the day before. We shouldn't feel down when we find mistakes that we thought we had covered. Instead, we should be happy about what caused them, like a sailor who finds the waterway that would have sunk his ship otherwise. The person we spend our free time with has a lot of power over us. He can make or break our lives, our courage or fear, our ability to think clearly or not. People who have low self-esteem won't be judged as much as people who have high self-esteem would be. The doctor knows a bit about sickness, but not much about health, because he doesn't spend much time with healthy, normal people. For better or worse, every thought is a brick in the road we are building for ourselves. Everyone shouldn't let other people's thoughts shape them in the way that makes them feel good. Smart people who think about and judge everything always fall into the trap, because expecting problems means making them happen. If you want to move an idea forward, you need to use your mind. Saying something is impossible just because it seems impossible is a bad habit that you should break. You should talk about big and important plans with people who share your hobbies and goals. Focusing on a goal is a very smart way to be selfish. Determination works every muscle and fills it with a wonderful fluid that gives you life. Anyone who thinks old thoughts will never be able to keep their body healthy and beautiful. Fear is just another word for not being able to stop new thoughts from coming to mind. The table should only be shared by people who are completely kind. Courage is like a cloud of magnets that nothing can get through. A 60-second daydream is a 60-second peace of mind for the body and the soul. But I had fun, and I plan to have even more fun. Ties of family are made up of unspoken oppressions. People who travel a lot and see new people and places all the time are more alive than people who live in the same place year after year without traveling. A life of contemplation is productive. Do not be afraid to have fun. Having the right attitude about the little things in life is what makes heaven on earth. Having bright things around you is good for you. Things that look nice make you feel good, and things that make you feel good in your mind make your body feel good. You will attract good things to yourself when you think positive thoughts. Any thoughts of hate or envy will come back to you like a boomerang.